They say if you make this dish, you'll get a marriage proposal. Well, I already have a husband, so either this is just a really good chicken recipe or I'm about to get into big trouble. Marry Me Chicken, we all know it's a social media sensation, but at its heart, it's a simple 30-minute weeknight dinner that is creamy, savory, and ridiculously good. Today, for our Valentine's Day edition, I'm going to show you how to make it two ways. As a rich, saucy chicken dish, basically the original recipe, and as Marry Me Chicken Pasta, my personal favorite, and the version that I make almost every week. And if you're the one hoping for a proposal, well, consider this your secret weapon. Let's get into it. This recipe has two main components, the chicken and the sauce. For the chicken, we have two options. The key here is that it needs to be thin so it cooks quickly and evenly. You can buy pre-cut chicken cutlets from the store, but it's easy to do it. If you're with me, place a boneless, skinless chicken breast on a cutting board and gently hold it in place with one hand. Using a sharp knife, carefully slice it in half lengthwise to create two thinner pieces. The goal is to get them as evenly as possible so they cook at the same rate. And if one side ends up a little thicker than the other, no problem, just grab a meat mallet and gently tap it until both pieces are uniform in thickness. Next, we'll pat dry the chicken with paper towels, which helps it get a nice golden sear. Then we'll season both sides with 1 teaspoon of kosher salt and half a teaspoon of black pepper. Next, we'll grab a large shallow plate and add 4 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. If you're following a gluten-free diet, feel free to swap in your favorite gluten-free flour here. We'll take each piece of chicken and dredge it on both sides, making sure it's lightly coated, shaking off any excess, just enough to help create a nice golden crust without making it too heavy. Now let's saute the chicken. We'll grab a large skillet and add 2 tablespoons of olive oil over a medium heat. We want the oil shimmering hot, which is the key to getting a beautiful golden crust and cooking the chicken evenly. Once the oil is ready, we'll add the dredged chicken and let it cook for about 3 to 4 minutes on each side. As you're searing, resist the urge to move them around. Let the hot skillet do its job. You'll know it's time to flip when the chicken releases easily and has that signature light brown color. And since we don't want to overcrowd the pan, it is best to cook the chicken in 2 batches. This way, each piece gets that perfect sear. We'll then transfer the seared chicken onto a plate and cover it with foil to keep it warm. Now let's make that rich, creamy sauce. In the same skillet, we'll add a tablespoon of olive oil, then toss in 3 cloves of minced garlic. I like to turn the heat down to medium-low here because, garlic cooks really fast and we definitely don't want it to burn. We'll saute it for about 30 seconds, just until it is fragrant. Next, we'll slowly pour in 1 cup of chicken stock, 1 cup of heavy cream, and then we'll add a half a cup of sun-dried tomatoes. When shopping for sun-dried tomatoes, you'll usually see 2 kinds, dry packed or the ones packed in olive oil. For this recipe, the olive oil packed ones work best because they're softer and more flavorful. Just be sure to drain them before adding them to the sauce. Now, to finish it off, we'll stir in half a cup of shredded Parmesan cheese, half a teaspoon of dried oregano, 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme, and half a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Then for a little brightness, we'll add a generous squeeze of fresh lemon juice, about 2 tablespoons or so. At this point, it's also a good idea to give it a quick taste and adjust the seasoning if needed. Finally, we'll add the chicken back into the sauce, letting it simmer for another 2 to 3 minutes until it is warmed through and coated in all that creamy goodness. We'll finish it off with a sprinkle of fresh basil, and just like that, we have a dish that is creamy, flavorful, and absolutely irresistible. You can serve this with a fresh green salad to keep things light, or pair it with a starch to soak up all that delicious sauce. For a lighter option, my lemon quinoa is a perfect match, but if you're in the mood for something extra luxurious, creamy mashed potatoes take it to the next level. Now, if you're like me and believe that pasta recipes are a lifesaver for weeknight dinners, then Marry Me Chicken Pasta might just be the way to go. It is still a 30-minute meal, and the process is pretty much the same with just a few small tweaks. For this version, we'll start by bringing a pot of salted water to a boil. Then we'll add 8 ounces of pasta and cook it until al dente. Now, when it comes to pasta shape, I recommend using a short pasta that really holds on to the sauce. Penne is my favorite, but fusilli works great too. That being said, the pasta aisle has so many options these days, so feel free to use whatever you like. I have made this recipe plenty of times with gluten-free pasta made from quinoa or brown rice, and it works just as well. We'll reserve about a cup of pasta water before draining the rest, which will help us adjust the sauce later if needed. While the pasta cooks, we'll pat dry 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breasts and cut them into 1-inch cubes. Then we'll transfer them to a bowl and season with 1 teaspoon of kosher salt and half a teaspoon of black pepper. Next, we'll add 4 tablespoons of all-purpose flour and toss everything together until the chicken is evenly coated. This light coating helps give the chicken a nice golden crust when we cook it later on. Next, we'll grab a large skillet and heat 2 tablespoons of olive oil over medium-high heat until it starts to shimmer. I know waiting for the oil to heat up isn't the most exciting part, but trust me, a properly heated skillet is the secret to that perfect golden crust. Once the oil is ready, we'll add the cubed chicken in a single layer and cook it about 2 to 3 minutes per side, adjusting the heat as needed to ensure even browning. We're looking for a light golden color and want the chicken to be fully cooked. If need be, do this in 2 batches so the chicken has enough space to brown nicely instead of steaming. We'll transfer the chicken onto a plate, cover it with foil to keep it warm, and set it aside. The rest of the process, making the sauce, is pretty much the same. The only difference is that we're using a bit more liquid to ensure there's enough sauce to coat all the pasta perfectly. To make the sauce, we'll add a tablespoon of olive oil to the now empty skillet, then toss in 3 cloves of minced garlic. We'll saute it for about 30 seconds until fragrant, just enough to wake up that flavor. Next, we'll pour in 2 cups of chicken stock and 1 cup of heavy cream, followed by a half a cup of sun-dried tomatoes. As we stir, we'll use a wooden spoon to scrape up all those golden brown bits from the bottom of the skillet, which is where so much of the flavor is hiding. We'll bring the mixture to a boil, then let it simmer for 2 to 3 minutes before adding the cooked chicken back in. From here, we'll let everything simmer together for another 3 to 4 minutes, stirring frequently until the sauce thickens slightly. At this point, the sauce should still be on the thinner side, but if it gets too thick, we can add a splash of the reserved pasta water, just a little at a time until we get the perfect consistency. To finish the sauce, we'll stir in 2/3 of a cup of grated Parmesan cheese, 1/4 teaspoon of oregano, 1/4 teaspoon of thyme, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and a half a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Finally, we'll add the cooked pasta to the sauce and toss everything together until it is beautifully coated. We'll let it all simmer for another 2 to 3 minutes to warm through, and just like that, we've got a creamy, dreamy, marry me chicken pasta. To serve, we'll ladle it into a bowl and sprinkle on a little extra Parmesan cheese and toss in a handful of fresh basil leaves, because you know, a good garnish makes everything better. Pair it with a crisp glass of wine, and just like that, dinner is served. I highly doubt that you'll have leftovers, but if you do, both versions store well in an airtight container for up to 3 days. Just be sure to let them cool to room temperature before storing. You'll find the links to both printable recipes in the description, along with more details on ingredient substitutions, reheating tips, and side dish pairings. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. And if you're the one hoping for fruit thicker than the it is best to man. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. When I tell you how good this is, I mean it.